Okie doke. So welcome aboard our final call for 2017. I know that you'll miss me over the holidays. You may want to just go back to our archives and listen to other recordings because you'll want to hear my voice once again on Monday. But next Monday is in fact Christmas, and I will not be doing a call. So on that point, it's a very sad day for you, I know. All right. Let's talk about John Maxwell. What do you say? We're in a series. The law of sacrifice is today's. Hey! Okay. Welcome. Now that you're all here and you're happy, mute yourselves. There you go. All right. We're on law number 18, the law of sacrifice. The law of sacrifice. Oh, this is a good one. And I have 4 points to make, because I need to tell you kind of structure to what we're going to talk about. So we're going to talk about 4 things. I'll let you know if something seems to be important to me. Here's an important thought, but it's not the first point. Maxwell says this about the law of sacrifice. You must, if you're a leader must give up to go up. A leader must give up to go up. Okay? They have to give up things to move up and improve and better others. So here's point number 1 today, the law of sacrifice. John Maxwell, our leadership trainer and guru, says there is no success without sacrifice. There is no success without sacrifice. Agreed? Yes. How many of you have sacrificed to be here at LGFG? You've had to sacrifice something. Some of you sacrificed moving somewhere or changing your lifestyle or really getting focused. You had to sacrifice a lot of free time to work here. But everybody that's leading and growing is sacrificing. So I meet people who wish they had more. You know people like this, but they're unwilling to make sacrifices, right? They're unwilling to make the necessary sacrifices. I was telling the folks in Australia yesterday that I knew a guy who wanted to have a successful online business. He was very excited, but he wasn't sure and it wasn't entirely willing to build a good website. That's a problem. He didn't want to really connect to people on social media a whole lot. He wanted to hire somebody to do that, and he didn't want to network with anybody. He knew about technology, but those were some impediments. He wasn't willing to sacrifice to make his business go. So guess what? It didn't. When I used to interview university students, when I worked at Southwestern with some of you guys some years ago, when I talked to and I held group interviews with students to recruit, I encountered hundreds that said they wanted to be successful. I said, how many of you would like to be successful after you graduate from university? Everybody's like, oh yes, sign me up. And I had students tell me, I had so many tell me I want to make $1 million by the time I'm 30. I said, okay. Then I said, what are you willing to give up? And they stared at me blankly. They're like, well, I'm going to work hard. And I go, okay, what's your plan? I don't know, but I'm going to be a millionaire. And I was like, okay, there's a problem here. So everybody wants to be successful, but few, why aren't people? Few are willing to sacrifice, to give up things, to be successful as leaders. So I started thinking in prepping for this call about some of my sacrifices, because I know that you guys tune in every week to hear about my life. And so I know years ago when I was a university student, I left the comfort of my home and all my friends to go sell books door to door, 80 plus hours a week. Right, Eddie? Yes. And Yana and Demi, a bunch of us went to do that. Some of you are tired of hearing about it, but it was a huge life-changing event, and I had a massive sacrifice. I even left the band I was playing in, which they really were angry that the keyboard player walked out the door. But that was the sacrifice. I had to sacrifice leading a normal lifestyle for a university student. And during the school year, I was recruiting, holding interviews to build my team, to build my organization. I was meeting with people. I was doing all this extra work beyond just being a student. And so there was some sacrifice involved. And sometimes I was kind of lamenting that. I was like, oh, why am I working so hard? And then when I got on board with Southwestern as a district sales manager, I had to sacrifice my role and where I lived and moved to Nashville. I gave up my entire sales organization. They said, move to Nashville. You can influence more people internationally, but you'll have to give up your base, your organization. So I sacrificed a pay cut at the time to have more influence. That was a sacrifice. Drop in income, rise in influence. I thought that was a good trade-off. And we've talked about the law of trade-offs, right? Think about this. You have to sacrifice when you get married. Does anyone plan on having a life partner and getting married at some point? Yes? Is that a goal? Yes. If it is, or if you're involved, what does that require? You sacrifice your singleness, I hope. You give up other people. You close doors. You have to make decisions jointly sometimes. You realize the whole world doesn't revolve around you. When we had children, when you have children, you have to sacrifice. One of our daughters became a very good volleyball player and softball player, so we traveled almost every weekend, spending thousands and thousands of dollars sacrificing for that sport to travel to different tournaments. And it was good. I think it was worth it. So, and speaking of my wife, Deb, she sacrificed for 8 extra years after her undergraduate degree at university to become a physician. So she's director of medicine at Vanderbilt now, but she went through 8 years of med school and residency to become a doctor. I mean, people always look at doctors and see them golfing or living in nice homes, and they go, wow, that's a pretty cushy job. But they don't see the sacrifices that went into that lifestyle later. So you pay the price now, right, to enjoy the price later. That's one of my favorite thoughts. So when I was in my 20s, I thought, I'm going to pay the price now so I can enjoy the price later. I'm going to sacrifice now so later on I can enjoy that and live a different lifestyle. So, that's just stuff to think about. You need to, when I work with some of the students or kids, the youth nearby in Franklin, Tennessee, who were underprivileged, I have to sacrifice my constant thinking of myself to reach out to other people. It's an inconvenience. It's sometimes uncomfortable, but it's a good thing. So there's no success without sacrifice. Make a note of that. One executive I used to know said this about sacrifice. He said, when you're all wrapped up in yourself, you make a pretty small package. That's something to think about. And it pertains to Christmas. Did you hear that? Slip that in. All right, number 2. We're on point 2 now. Leaders are often asked to give up more than others. Leaders are often asked to give up more than others, right? Leaders have to give up their rights. Just ask Dimitri sometime. Just ask some of the partners that are not only selling themselves, but they're also training other people. Leaders need to learn how to put others ahead of themselves. So it's not easy, but you need to give up more than the people that you lead, right? Again, referencing back to my former life for 36 years at Southwestern, I worked with Dan Moore. He was the president. I always had a number on my office, metaphorically, that had number 2, because I was always number 2. People would say, Dan, can you come to our meeting this weekend or in this next month? And he'd say, no, I'm flying somewhere. And then they would come and knock on my door and say, Lee, can you come to meet with our group? And I'd say, yes, I am number 2. So, but here's the deal. I didn't want his job at all. People ask me, do you want to work here long enough to be president? No. The amount of sacrifice he had to make, the amount of time he was on the road, all the meetings he went to. He had to go to board meetings, and I spelled them B-O-R-E-D, board, not B-O-A-R-D. He had to deal with budgets all the time, and mostly with emotional problems. The higher you go in an organization, the more emotional difficulties you have to deal with. So I looked at that and said, I don't want to give that up. So that's where I drew the line for me. But as leaders, you have to give up your rights. So the heart of leadership, if you remember Maxwell's law of addition, is putting other people ahead of yourself. It's doing what's best for the team. And for that reason, leaders a lot of times have to give up their rights. And so leadership is all about sacrifice again. There's late nights, there's lots of travel. I remember when I first sacrificed and moved to Nashville to work as marketing manager, I bought textbooks, I took home homework, and I had to study. So how many of you have had to study a little extra to prepare for what you're doing? Yeah? You've watched some videos, you've gone back, you've read scripts a lot. It involves sacrifice. So that's just the deal. Tom Krause said this quote. Some of you that like quotes, let me throw this one at you. I like it. This is good. You have to think. Getting what you want is not nearly as important as giving what you have. Wow. Think about that. Getting what you want is not nearly as important as giving what you have. And that's what you have to do as a leader. The law of addition. You have to give, put others first, and you give up your rights. It's a fact. All right. Number 3. Here's another good one. Number 3 out of 4. You must keep giving up to stay up. You've got to keep giving up to stay up. Maxwell takes the law of sacrifice farther when he says, if leaders have to give up to go up, then they have to give up even more to stay up where they are. And you're sitting there going, okay, what do I have to write here? Just remember this. I'll give you the bottom line here in a second. Today's success, this is a good thought, is the biggest threat to tomorrow's success. Today's success is the greatest threat to tomorrow's success. What does that mean? There's a cost involved in moving forward. And the day you stop being willing to pay the price is the day you stop creating the results that you want. So if you're going, I still don't know what to write down. Write this down. You can't coast. You cannot coast. And some of you are like, this is my 4th month. I am not coasting. Good. You have nothing to coast on. You don't have enough clients yet. You need to keep working hard. But some of you have built up a good base. You have lots of repeat clients. And you go like, whew, yes, I'm kind of arrived. I'm doing well. That's when you can downshift to a lower gear. You start coasting. And everything starts going downhill eventually. So you got to keep giving up to stay up. Let me hit point number 4. Point number 4. The higher the level of leadership, the greater the sacrifice. So the higher your leadership lid, the more responsibility you have, the greater the sacrifice. Ask Dimitri. Okay? You probably noticed that the higher the position, the fewer number of people who are able to step into that position. Makes sense. It's not because there's a lack of capable people. It's because there's not enough people who are willing to pay the price. Right. So there you go. The higher the level of leadership, the greater the sacrifice. So you, just to kind of wrap up this part, you must decide for yourself how much time, effort, or other sacrifice you're going to make. You have to count the cost. Count the cost. Okay? So this is a simple idea and simple law to grasp intellectually, but it involves grit. It involves the grind. It involves doing things you don't feel like doing. And if you recall our Albert Gray's The Common Denominator of Success, he says successful people form the habit of doing things unsuccessful people are not willing to do. Yes. So that means putting in an extra call at the end of the day when you don't feel like it because you haven't hit your goals, you know? It means dealing with a customer who's upset and they're a pain in the butt, but you know, you need to take care of it. So you do that. Successful people form the habit of doing things unsuccessful people aren't willing to do. So the law of sacrifice states that those who do that will go up, and those who continue sacrificing will stay up. And that's where we want to be. All righty. So there you go. Any thoughts from you guys who, or have you thought of what have I sacrificed, or what am I currently giving up to be where I am? You know, most of you have told me on calls, you've said, I'm really thankful for what I do. I enjoy what I do. Sometimes, you know, when I'm winning, it's always more fun. But have you calculated the cost? What have I given up to be where I am? And what am I sacrificing? Any thoughts on that? Otherwise, I've got another quote to throw at you. Anybody? Okay. Good. Most of your eyes are still open, so that's very encouraging to me. Thank you. So I will wrap up this message and the final one of 2017 with this. Now, this is one you want to write down, and I'll try to, I'll get it posted somewhere, but it's a good quote in it. You have to think about it, all right? So think about this. And it's anonymous, which means I don't know who wrote this, but it's good. It says, if you don't sacrifice for what you want, what you want will be the sacrifice. Yes. Yes, Padawan learner. That's heavy. If you don't sacrifice for what you want is going to be the sacrifice. You'll give it up. So one way or the other, there's sacrifice involved. All right? I would rather enjoy the pain of discipline than the pain of regret. So move forward. Yeah? Is everybody good? Is everybody happy? It's Monday. We got 1 week to Christmas. I want to encourage you to do two things. Number one, if you're coming to Leeds, I want to remind you to be thinking about your goals and writing those down, because we're going to really flesh those out when we're together in Leeds, and you'll probably have to turn those in at some point. Yeah, Katrin wants that. So make sure that you're thinking about your goals in advance. And secondly, I want you to have a restful, I want you to, one, finish strong. You need to finish strong with your calls and your sales, and when you're in turf, make things happen, okay? Because we want to have a strong December. So that's my command to you. And then when that's all over and you've done your best and you're just beat, I want you to relax and enjoy your Christmas time and your Happy New Year, right? So, and remember, Christmas time, what's part of Christmas? Christ is part of Christmas, and law of sacrifice, he was given to us by God. He was the sacrifice. He gave himself up for us. And that's why we celebrate Christmas. That's why we exchange presents. He was a gift. So ponder that over Christmas. That's my message to you. All right. So enjoy it. Thank you. Drink some eggnog like I did last night. And I will see many of you in Leeds in the new year. Carry on. Do well. This is Lee signing off.